Well, as we mentioned, Israel has described the US ultimatum as disappointing. But for more on the reaction to Biden's stance in Israel, this earlier from the Jerusalem-based ABC news correspondent Jordana Miller.
This is Israel's most important ally, and it's clear that Israel cannot, in the long term, fight in Gaza or face any of its other enemies, be that Hezbollah or Iran, without the support, the military support of the United States. So I think this will be taken seriously. As the UN ambassador for Israel said, you know, in political circles, they are describing it as disappointing, frustrating. Some on the right making more far right, making more critical comments about President Biden's stance. But you know, President Biden has been very clear ever since Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, began to threaten a massive operation in Rafah. The president was very clear that Israel had to present a plan that would effectively protect more than 1 million civilians. And until today, the United States doesn't feel the plan they've been given would do that. It's important to say that, you know, the Biden administration doesn't oppose any operations in Rafah. They want to see Israel go after Hamas in Rafah and the tunnels along the Egyptian-Gaza border in precision, limited strikes, perhaps special operations. They don't want to see the massive firepower with tanks and airstrikes that Israel used in Gaza City and in Khan Yunis, the two largest cities. And the United States is not opposed to Israel trying to control parts of what is called the Philadelphia Corridor. That is the border area between Egypt and Gaza, where a lot of tunnels still exist, according to Israel. And we have to remember that is how Hamas was able to build up their military capabilities, by moving arms and everything else from Egyptian soil into Gaza. Remember, Israel had a very strict blockade on the Strip, and Egypt was supposed to as well. But obviously, Hamas got around that blockade. Israel wants to control those tunnels so that Hamas can never rearm. So, you know, President Biden's decision puts, you know, a very big dilemma on the table before Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's going to have to decide what comes next. Does he keep the Israeli army in a very limited presence in Rafah right now, around the Rafah border crossing, which, by the way, Israel has to figure out when is it going to be open and who's going to run it. This is, you know, arguably one of the two most important entry points for aid into the Gaza Strip. There are 2 land crossings in the north, but they're not really functioning at full capacity, and most of the trucks are going in still through the south. So Netanyahu has some tough decisions ahead of him, on top of weighing what to do about a ceasefire deal, which, as we know, the CIA chief was here yesterday trying to save those talks, which, according to, you know, leaked reports here in Israel, they're on the verge of collapse because the sides just cannot seem to bridge the gaps.